stop the presses. We actually have some positive news to talk about. And it is about Long Beach, and it is that Long Beach for the foreseeable future will remain an IndyCar race because Racer.com and Marshall Pruitt, who's been all over this story this week, broke the news that former Champ Car World Series team owner and series owner Gerry Forsythe has purchased Kevin Kalkoven's estate's 50% share in Long Beach and intends to keep it an IndyCar race for the foreseeable future. The exact quote from Gerry Forsythe in the article, which is linked in the description that I think is most important, is that he said, this is an IndyCar event and it will be into the future. Extremely, extremely, extremely positive. Probably, I won't even say probably, this is for the 2024 year in IndyCar, the very most positive headline across the board that has come out this year, I think, without a doubt. I think some people will probably say Nashville, the Nashville Oval. If you're just a purist and someone who only cares about the on-track product, and I think of myself about that way a lot, yeah, sure, Nashville was a positive, but if you're a sponsor, a team owner, even the series, you hated that announcement. But for Long Beach, I think universally across the board, if you're involved in IndyCar in any way, you are feeling really, really good about this. And it's just, the irony is not lost on me that this headline, which is so positive, came because of a former owner of the Champ Car World Series and someone who hasn't been a team owner for over 15 years in the sport. And yet, Gerry Forsythe, I set up a shrine for Gerry Forsythe because of this announcement today, because it is extremely positive. And actually, I feel like a lot of younger fans, because it has been 15 years since Gerry Forsythe was a team owner and an active part, at least a forward-facing part of IndyCar. Obviously, he's been a 50% shareholder in Long Beach all this time, but not many people knew that. And so I just kind of want to talk a little bit about Gerry Forsythe and his history in IndyCar racing, because the lore of this thing and the fact that Gerry Forsythe was the one to step up to the plate and so publicly not only defend IndyCar, but endorse IndyCar is surprising in some ways, to be honest with you. But that being said, Gerry Forsythe has always had a huge role in IndyCar, essentially since the early 80s. His team began in earnest in 1982. They scored their first win that year. In fact, the very first win of an IndyCar race of any kind at Road America, with Hector Rabaki, of all people, driving the car. Then they then hired Teo Fabi in 1983. They scored the Indianapolis 500 pole position, took a track record, which was extremely surprising at that time, and then they just continued on. The team is most well known for their run in the 90s, where they brought in so many incredibly talented drivers through the Players sponsorship. Jacques Villeneuve started his IndyCar career with Gerry Forsythe's team. Greg Moore ran his entire IndyCar career, as short and unfortunately as cut short as it was, ran the entire time with the Players Forsythe team. Drivers like Alex Tagliani, Patrick Carpentier, eventually drivers coming into the team like Paul Tracy, who won the final kart championship in 2003. Gerry Forsythe saved the career of AJ Allmendinger when Rousport cut him loose. Gerry Forsythe has been an extremely important team owner in the history of IndyCar racing. But what's so strange about this is that, the politics. Gerry Forsythe never, ever, ever entered a car in the Indy Racing League. Literally, the only team owner to not ever touch the IndyCar series coming from the kart series. He just never touched it. Every other team owner dipped their toe in some way or the other. But Gerry just simply didn't. From 1994 all the way to the Champ Car World Series final demise in early 2008, a Forsythe race car never raced in an IRL event. Now, you could say that his participation in the 2008 Long Beach Grand Prix breaks that. I would probably say, it depends how you classify that. Yeah, they scored points in the IRL championship, but Gerry Forsythe stayed very, very at arm's length at best with the Indy Racing League in all forms that it took. In fact, to the point where one Paul Tracy essentially had his career, his full-time career, cut short because of a contract dispute with Gerry Forsythe. Paul was under the impression that Forsythe was going to come into the IndyCar series, and just it never materialized. And he had a contract which locked him into a team that didn't exist. But Forsythe continued to be involved in Long Beach, and I guess at some point has had a change of heart about what IndyCar is and where IndyCar is and his commitment level to it. And I frankly commend him, because think about this, folks. I mean, it's crazy. Like I said at the beginning, that a Champ Car Series owner has become this relevant in the modern IndyCar space after really not being heavily involved for this long, and to create such a positive headline. But, this is part of why, it was such an important thing to talk about, that Long Beach could be sold to any entity, including IndyCar. Although certainly that would have been good for IndyCar to own Long Beach. It's probably wasn't the best idea, though, for a variety of reasons. But just the idea that IndyCar could not be racing at Long Beach. And I want to make this clear again, because I feel like a lot of people still don't think that, the fact that NASCAR, Formula One, and IndyCar were all bidding on Long Beach to share Long Beach. It was not happening, okay? The reason Long Beach works is it's a privately run racetrack. And therefore, Long Beach chooses who races there. So you get a really cool slate of races, which makes Long Beach so awesome. You get everything from Formula Drift to IMSA to IndyCar. It's all across the board. Any kind of racing you want to see, you're probably going to get to see it at Long Beach. That's what makes that race so great and why we love it so much. And if NASCAR had bought it, you might have kept IMSA. You might have. But I can't imagine a scenario where Formula Drift stays around. I can't imagine a scenario where IndyCar stays around. It just wasn't realistic to think about those sort of things. From IndyCar's perspective, I'm telling you, man, if IndyCar had lost Long Beach, to say that would have been a crushing defeat would have been an understatement. I don't want to say you're necessarily totally in turn out the lights territory at that point, because of course you're always going to have the Indianapolis 500. But that would not have been a ringing endorsement on the series to lose your second biggest race to your biggest competitor. And yeah, we're going to have a lot of kumbaya, and a lot of people, say NASCAR and IndyCar need to be working closer together. I hear that all the time. But at the end of the day, they are competitors. Like, they are in the same marketplace. And until something drastically changes, they're always going to try to undercut each other as much as they possibly can get away with. Yeah, sure, they'll work together in some respects. Yeah, maybe IndyCar will run at a NASCAR run track, although I don't think there are any of those on the calendar right now. And of course, NASCAR will race at the Brickyard, and of course, they did the doubleheader at the Indy GP. But if you are in a position where you are IndyCar and so many negative headlines have come out, and the TV ratings are starting to hurt a little bit, and there's all these question marks about the series. Team owners are starting to speak up. It's a very tumultuous time in IndyCar. The last thing you needed was Long Beach to go away, and because it is such an important race for competitors, for fans, for sponsors. Again, it's one of those that's universally, whether it's B2B, whether it's B2C. Everybody likes Long Beach. It's a glamorous area. It's a fun race, and it's an exciting race. It's an historic race. There's an emotional connection to it. There's everything that you want in a race at Long Beach. And if you lose that from your championship, it's just not a good endorsement. It's not a positive endorsement. So the fact that it's staying is just massively positive, massively important for IndyCar and its future. Because if that race went away, and I get it, some people don't like street courses. I'm not the biggest fan of street courses. I think street courses are judged based on where their pit lane is in relation to their start-finish line. And guess what? Long Beach, the pit lane and the start finish line are aligned, we're positive. We're good. Long Beach is very much a real racetrack. What an awesome event that is. I got to go in 2022. I cannot speak highly enough about Long Beach. And the fact that it's going to remain an IndyCar race, I'm feeling very, very good about that. Drink it in, guys. This is the positivity we need. This is the energy we need surrounding IndyCar, because it's great that it's there. That's stability for the future. I hope Long Beach remains an IndyCar race for a very, very, very long time, because that's what needs to happen. And so, Gerry Forsythe, of all people, I mean, again, I hope I explained the lore well enough, because just the sheer fact that the Champ Car World Series, the person who kept the split going, arguably, by buying the assets of CART and forming the Champ Car World Series, rather than just saying, hey, you know what, IRL, take it all, is now working to help the IndyCar series significantly. Because like I said in the previous video, if it was totally a money thing, if there was no passion involved, which clearly, to Gerry Forsythe's credit, there is clearly passion for American open wheel racing involved in this decision. Because if it was purely a money thing, you're looking at NASCAR, you're looking at Formula One, you're looking at anybody else. But the fact that we still have passionate people who are willing to put their money where their mouth is and put IndyCar in a position where it can succeed, my Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach hat is off to you, Gerry Forsythe. Fan-freaking-tastic. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube. I'll see you in the next video.